Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Fullerton, California, an inclusive community dedicated to building a better world. I'm Thomas Contreras. Whoever you are, however you identify, whether you join us in person or online, you are welcome. UUCF acknowledges that this land that we inhabit here in Orange County is physically situated in the ancestral homeland of the Ahachiman, Kizh, and Tongva peoples. We pay respect and honor to these and all Indigenous peoples. Before we begin our service, I'd like to call your attention to a very few brief announcements. First of all, we thank you for being mindful of everyone's health by keeping your mask on over your nose and mouth while in the sanctuary. We limit the time spent in our service making announcements, so please read the weekly announcements you receive over email. Otherwise, you may miss something really important. And one other announcement, somebody left some reading glasses out front on a chair. I'm gonna leave them here, so if someone wants to claim them afterwards, they may. We'll be sharing our joys and sorrows a little bit later in the service. So if you're in the sanctuary and you'd like to share, the slips are located on the back table and you can fill them out up until the end of Time for All Ages. If you're joining us online, I invite you to post your joy or sorrow in the comments section, as well as saying hello. And this morning, we'd also like to welcome Akbar Hussaini, who's here with us today. He's born and raised in a traditional Muslim family in Hyderabad, India. He's always been a student of life and a dreamer. His interest in religion began with studying his own religion, Islam, more deeply, especially after Islam took some worldwide scrutiny and criticism following 2001. He took a very critical look at Islam and did some comparison with other religions in an unbiased way. His decades of self-study revealed that answers to most of life's intriguing and complex questions can only be found at the confluence of religion, philosophy, and science. He traveled to Egypt to learn Arabic and Islam. Akbar teaches basics of Islamic theory at his mosque in Irvine. He also serves as the executive director of NMI Interfaith Council, where he loves bringing people of all faiths together under the umbrella of unity and humanity. He has been invited to speak at various organizations, mosques, and churches. Akbar is an engineer by education and lives with his wife and 3 wonderful daughters. He lives in Irvine. He owns and runs a manufacturing business which sells industrial pumps in the United States and overseas. The recent events in India got his full attention, and now he is committed to doing whatever he can to help the minorities there, some of whom are on the verge of genocide, according to Gregory Stanton of Genocide Watch. Akbar Hussaini, thank you for joining us today. And now, those of you in the sanctuary are now welcome to take a moment to greet one another. It's a video. So I believe we have a video for our opening hymn. Is that correct? Can I speak? Please. Akbar would just like to introduce the video, which we'll use for our opening hymn.
So, Assalamu alaikum. This opening hymn is something that we can all sing along. I'm not a great singer, but I will kind of set the tune a little bit and we can follow. It goes something like, that's the call to prayer, is the other video that we're talking about. Right? Well, that's fine. We can just go with that.
That's right. All right, so we'll just pretend we sang a hymn. I now invite Wendy Karn to light our chalice. And now you could pray the call to prayer. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And now, if you would join with me in saying our unison affirmation. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. Love is the doctrine that we share. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need. Thus do we covenant with one another.
And now we invite the children to come forward for the time of all ages. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Hello, can you hear me? Perfect. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about cleaning our clothes closets. Who here has to go through their clothes sometimes? Say every year or so. Lots of hands. So I'm wondering, how do you decide what to keep and what to get rid of?
If I haven't worn it in a year.
Doesn't fit. So tell me about what's left in the closet when you're done. Are there older things, newer things, or both? Oh. So to switch gears a little, does anyone remember when this congregation started? What year did this congregation start? What year? Happened in a... Yes, 1967, 55 years ago. Think about how different what we wear today is from back then in 1967. Those people gathered together, I should say, on Sundays. They heard sermons, they prayed prayers and read readings. They sang hymns and taught their children what they felt was important. Things they believed, their religious ideas, are kind of like the clothes in our closet. Like with our clothes, we need to look at our beliefs every so often and ask ourselves if they still fit. Perhaps they're too worn out to wear in public anymore. Perhaps there's something we borrowed from someone else that we never really used anyway. We want our beliefs to reflect who we are on the inside, so we keep the ones that still fit, still work, and still have meaning for us when we wear them. Like our clothes, we want our beliefs to change a little with us as we grow and change, so that they will always remain true to who we are.
Go with wisdom, go with wonder, go to greet a brand new day. Learn to see the light within you as we send you on your way.
Those of you joining us online are invited to share in all caps joy or sorrow in the comment section. And Mary Botts will light a candle for those of you sharing online, which I just checked and I didn't see anything yet, but I'll check again later. And we have a couple of joys and sorrows over people in the congregation. Rose London would like, and if she would like to, she can come up and light her own candle if she cares to. She got a good role in an independent film. Hopefully it's going to be in Sundance. Congratulations, Rose. So there's a joy. And I don't see anything online. I'm sorry if I missed it, but I just checked right now and I didn't see anything. Go ahead. Some technical difficulties with the chalice, but being rectified. We'll go ahead and light one more candle for all those joys, concerns, and sorrows that remain unexpressed, but are still held close to our hearts. Very good. And now, for all those sorrows that remain unexpressed but are still held close to our hearts, will the congregation please join in saying the words on the screen? We hold in love all the spoken and unspoken joys and sorrows of this community. And now Akbar will lead us in a meditation.
For meditation, we're going to be focusing on the following verses from the Holy Book of Quran. In chapter 2, verse 168, Allah, and by the way, the name Allah is not the name of a Muslim god. Allah basically means in Arabic, the God. So the God in Islam does not have a name, it's just Allah. So when someone says Allah, they're not calling a specific God, they're calling the God. Al-Ilah means the God. So Allah says in Quran, chapter 2, verse 186, when my servants ask thee, thee being the prophet, concerning me, I am indeed close to them. I listen to the prayer of every supplicant when he calls on me. Let them also with a will listen to my call and believe in me, that they may walk in the right way. The next verse I want us to focus on is chapter 7, verse 55. Call on your Lord with humility and in private, for Allah loves not those who trespass beyond the bounds. This is all about the relationship of a human being with his or her God. The next verse is chapter 9, verse 115. God would not condemn for going astray those he has already guided, before making entirely clear to them what they should avoid. God has knowledge of everything. And the next one is, who created me? It is he who guides me, who gives me food and drink. And when I am ill, it is he who cures me, who will cause me to die and then to life again, and who I hope will forgive my faults on the day of judgment. And the last verse we need to reflect upon would be, it is we who created man, and we know God addresses himself as we, as an honorific thing. That doesn't mean there's a plurality of gods that Islam believes in. So it is we who created man, and we know what dark suggestions his soul makes to him. For we are nearer to him than his jugular vein. I had told them that my sermon is a little bit on the longer side, so we can skip the video, but I'm glad they played it. So I'm going to try and keep things a little shorter, but I don't know how well I'm going to succeed at that. Assalamu alaikum. I greet you with the Islamic greeting of peace. I want to start by thanking Reverend Jason Cook for inviting me to this sermon in this beautiful place. And then the excellent support team, including Thomas, Gordon, Amy, David, all those who put this together in a presentable format. And I thank you for being here to make all this worthwhile. Much has been said and will continue to be said about religion. So why do I want to add to this cacophony of expert opinions? These days, there is no shortage of alternative versions of truth. It's my firm belief that to overcome the racket of lies, the harmony of truth needs to be played as often as needed. I also believe that for an audience as diverse as we have in this place, there can be no narrow definitions of religion. A religion with narrow definition implies exclusivity, and I believe in a God that does not show favoritism. The book of Romans 2:11. In essence, religion is the code of life prescribed by the one who created life, so the living can achieve their highest potential while sharing this world without harming themselves or others. It's not unlike the rules we follow when driving on a shared road without hitting someone or being hit by someone. We all know what DMV is in the state of California. Now imagine if that DMV was a federal agency and instead of sharing the rules in a simple booklet available to everyone, they compiled a large volume of detailed laws. They decided to share this large volume only with a handful of their chosen people. They were in turn asked to share the rules however they want and with whoever they want. The federal DMV then deployed a large army of cops everywhere to hand out tickets and penalties for the slightest infraction. Repeated offenders could get a life imprisonment. Unsurprisingly, what follows is chaos with increasing number of accidents and traffic jams. They tried various measures like increasing the penalty from life imprisonment to a death sentence. Then the Bar Association asked them to write more detailed laws regulating every aspect imaginable, including the color and style of clothes they can wear when they drive. The only difference it made was to make this ever-increasing chaos monochromatic. They also increased the number of trainers by asking the original trainers to train more trainers. None of that seemed to help. And then there were seasonal issues to deal with. Winter snow caused many more accidents even when driving within the speed limit. The federal DMV decided that the speed limit should be lowered and the tire chains made mandatory everywhere during winter. The result, as reported, traffic in Miami ground to a halt as everyone was required to drive under the new speed limit of 25 miles an hour with chains on their tires. We may think this is funny, but how different is this to the propagation and practice of religions? Most holy books are written in languages such as Latin, Aramaic, or Sanskrit, none of which are spoken these days. Only a handful of the clergy can even claim to understand what it says, and they are incapable of interpreting them accurately. It may have worked in the past, but today we have access to many resources to research and verify everything. The information age has laid bare the inconsistencies and hypocrisies of the priests and the mullahs. Now, mullah is a Muslim priest. You mean, just so you're wondering what mullah is. Gone are the days when mankind could be scared into submission by a loud thunder or lightning. Wisdom can no longer be shared by calling everyone else ignorant. Promises of heaven backfire from those who create hell in this world. Guarantees of riches in this world ring hollow coming from those who beg for donations every weekend. The virtues of telling the truth seems insincere coming from the pulpit that perpetuate lies and misinformation. Family values taught by priests are destined to fail, or abusive priests are destined to fail. Love preached by hateful mullahs doesn't go very far. Hope cannot be instilled by threats of doomsday and hell. The fact is, this whole system of religion needs to be reconstructed, where the people are taught how to discern between good and bad in their daily lives. The religious leaders need to teach them what I call applied religion, where they're taught how to apply these principles to a given situation instead of applying rigid rules universally. The status quo, where religious authority feeds on fear and insecurity of their flock to unleash hatred and violence towards other groups, is not sustainable. These outward displays of symbols of authority with long robes and ornate headgear will not impress common people for much longer. They will recognize for what they are, that is, DMV agents trained by other DMV agents. Now, you must all be wondering, boy, this guy has a major grudge against DMV. No, I don't. But I think they are very useful in illustrating the point. Is it any surprise that according to surveys, religion is in decline? Actually, it's not the religion that's in decline, because true religion was rarely tried. What failed is the misinterpretation, exploitation, and abuse of religion. Let's not throw the baby with the bathwater. Religion is constantly vilified these days. We are asked to believe that religion is the cause of much of fighting and wars in the history of humanity. Do not fall for that narrative on the other extreme either. Of the 1,763 recorded wars by the Encyclopedia of Wars, a grand total of 121, 6.8%, had religion as their primary cause. The rest were fought because of our egos. When a predetermined narrative is being propagated, we must challenge it. We should develop this power to discern and start questioning instead of nodding in agreement, sitting in the pews or on the prayer rugs in a mosque. We may love our priests, our rabbis, and our imams, but we should learn to call them out when they are wrong. We should remind ourselves and others that even the highest priest and the most qualified scholar is only human and quite capable of making mistakes at best or intentional misguidance at worst. As an example of this, I will cite one common misinterpretation of the verse of Quran and how it has been used to spread hatred and violence. Mullahs cite this to urge violence, and Islamophobes use this to attack Islam and all Muslims. Chapter 9, verse 5 states, "But once the sacred months have passed, kill the polytheists wherever you find them. Capture them and besiege them." Doesn't that sound awful? How horrible is it to preach that? What kind of religion promotes that? Now, I can cite many verses in Bible and Torah which are just as violent, if not more. But attacking another religion to defend one's own is a sure sign of one of two things: the ignorance of the speaker or the indefensibility of the verse. So let's look at the background and the context for this verse. Prophet Muhammad and all early disciples were driven out of their homes in Mecca for their beliefs. All their possessions, including their homes, were taken away. Muhammad tried to find another home for them in a nearby town of Taif, where he was chased by children and adults throwing rocks at him until he bled profusely. The Prophet and his followers lived on the hill outside Mecca for several years on the verge of starvation. Eventually, a delegation from the city of Medina came to him and said they had heard of his honesty and fairness and invited him to come to their city to bring peace among the fighting tribes. He agreed to do so only after all of his followers relocated safely to Medina. And in Medina, he drafted a constitution for the city which brought peace and gave freedom of practicing whichever religion one chooses, along with the collective responsibility of defending the city. In January 628 CE, Prophet Muhammad received divine inspiration to perform pilgrimage to Mecca. He was in Medina at that time. It was the norm at that time that when someone comes to Mecca unarmed with the intention of pilgrimage, they would be given safe passage. Instead, the Prophet and his followers were stopped outside Mecca, and long negotiations began. They signed the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, which required them to return home without performing the pilgrimage that time, and in exchange were allowed to come next year for the pilgrimage. There were other conditions that were stipulated in that treaty, which is to respect each other's allies and not fight with them. Prophet agreed to the terms of this treaty despite many of his companions strongly disagreeing with them. But he chose a negotiated peace for 10 years instead of war. Next year, in January 629 CE, as per the terms of the treaty, a group of Muslims came back and performed pilgrimage in Mecca peacefully. In November 629, however, a group allied with the Meccans had attacked another group allied with the Muslims and killed 25 people. Muhammad was horrified at this and sent messengers to Mecca, asking them to pay restitution for the dead, which was the norm at that time for their relatives, or remove the offending group from their alliance so he can deal with them. And if they did neither, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah would be considered void. The Meccans didn't care. They said, okay, void the treaty, we don't care. That left Muhammad with no choice but to march against the Meccans in February of 630 CE. He put together an army of 10,000 people, which was huge at that time. That was easy for him because everyone knew he was wronged. Heavily outnumbered, the Meccans knew resistance was suicidal. They surrendered, and the Muslim army marched peacefully under the command of the Prophet, who ordered all Meccans to be spared unless they come out to fight. Such treatment was unprecedented in those times. And this was against the very people who had driven them out to the brink of starvation. Many came forward willingly at this gesture of forgiveness and accepted Islam. There were some who made peace only to wait for an opportunity to strike from within. They were caught making deals with outside tribes to prepare for such an assault. Muslims gave those offenders 4 months during which they will have amnesty to leave Mecca, or they could stay by reaffirming the treaty. And if some of them were unclear about the message of Islam, Muslims were ordered to teach them fully and take them to a safe place outside Mecca from where they can decide if they wanted to come and live under Muslim rule. And when none of these options were taken by the troublemakers, they had to be dealt with directly. This is the background in which these verses were sent. If we read these verses before and after, you'll see what the full story is. I'm going to read the verse above that, before that, which is the verse number 4 in chapter 9. As for the polytheists who have honored every term of their treaty with you, and have, you being, this is God speaking to Muhammad, those who have honored every term of their treaty with you and have not supported an enemy against you, honor their treaty with them until the end of its term. Surely Allah loves those who are mindful of Him. But once the sacred months have passed, kill the polytheists wherever you find them. Which polytheists we're talking about? Those who violated the treaty and will not take the other 4 options. And then besiege them. But if they prevent, perform prayers, or pay their dues, set them free. Indeed, Allah is forgiving. And if anyone of the polytheists asks for protection, O Prophet, grant it to them so they may hear the word of Allah, then escort them to a place of safety, for they are people who have no knowledge. How can such polytheists, those who plotted against you, have a treaty with you? So as long as they are true to you, be true to them. Indeed, Allah loves those who are mindful of Him. So now, does that sound like a blanket declaration of war against polytheists everywhere and at all times? At a time of history when winning side massacred, raped, and pillaged in the defeated towns, the victors here gave enemy fighters who refused to lay down the arms 3 distinct options and 4 months to leave or change their ways. This is more humane than the laws under the Geneva Convention of today for the treatment of enemy combatants. Therefore, it's important to not rely on the DMV agents to explain our religion. Now let's look at a couple of examples of how the same religion guides people to do good. I don't know if you noticed, but one of the pictures of with a long flowing beard was that of a man named Abdul Sattar Edhi. He was a teenager when he was forced to migrate from India to Pakistan at the time of partition in 1947. Along the way, he and his family were under constant threat of being hunted and killed by Hindu mobs. He was disgusted by this and decided early on that he will do whatever he can to help humanity and not fall into the trap of religious bigotry. He dedicated his life to help the poor, irrespective of their religion, because he read in the Quran that righteousness is blind to the religion or race of those who are being helped. God Himself does not discriminate with His mercies and bounties in the world. Who are we to do so? So he started Edhi Foundation with the equivalent of $25, and now the organization runs the largest volunteer ambulance service and offers 24 hours emergency aid. It also operates free nursing homes, clinics, orphanages, women's shelters, and rehab centers for drug addicts and mentally ill. Outside of its main base in South Asia, the Edhi Foundation also runs relief operations in Middle East, Europe, and United States. In 2005, the foundation donated $100,000 to relief efforts after Hurricane Katrina. Yes, they donated to Hurricane Katrina in the United States from Pakistan. When asked about his inspiration, he recalled the time when he was migrating with everyone, abandoning their homes, running away, or killing each other. There was a group of people who were helping and saving people from violence, irrespective of their religion. It was a group of volunteers known as Haksars, led by a Mr. Inayatullah Khan Mashriqi, who rose above the petty differences and provided aid and relief to everyone in the middle of this carnage that was taking place. That thinking was inspired by what Prophet Muhammad said: if anyone wrongs a non-Muslim or violates his rights, I will be the non-Muslim's advocate on the day of judgment. Now, you don't have to be a Muslim to understand the gravity of this threat, to see Prophet advocating against oneself on the day of judgment. Most true religions teach this humanity, and yet we twist interpretations to mean the opposite. And this misinterpretation is not applicable just to the scriptures written in strange languages, but it's also applicable to history. We see this evil attempt at revision of history in India these days to alienate and dehumanize minorities. This is vastly underreported for strategic reasons. Christian churches are being burned down and priests murdered because history is being rewritten to show all Christian invaders who forcibly converted Hindus to Christianity. They're removing from historical records and texts the tremendous work done by many of these Christians, including Mother Teresa, to help the undereducated and underprivileged. The very people who are shunned by Hindus as low-class untouchables. Muslims are being persecuted as foreigners and invaders after hundreds of years of living, enriching, and assimilating in the Indian society. Hindutva goons want to destroy great architectural buildings like Taj Mahal, claiming or making baseless claims that they are built on the Hindu temple sites. If a Muslim protests, he is thrown into prison without any due process for years, and his home is demolished by bulldozers. If this sounds familiar to what's happening in Palestine, you may want to research the connection. The oppressors around the world, they help each other. They teach each other ways to do that. Hindu religious leaders have been recorded calling for killing of 2 million Muslims in India to drive away 200 million Muslims from India. The numbers are staggering and will have far-reaching consequences that may reach every part of the world. Genocide Watch has declared that a genocide in India is not probable, but imminent. Imminent. We're talking about the possibility of genocide of my cousins, my nephews, nieces, and childhood friends. This is as personal as it gets to me. So I've decided to do what I can to increase the awareness and influence our leaders to hold India accountable for these crimes against humanity. I am in the process of putting together a coalition of interfaith leaders to do everything we can to prevent this genocide from happening. If we succeed, this will be the first time in the history of humanity we would have actually prevented a genocide rather than react after the fact. I would request any of you who want to help to please connect with me so we can actually join forces and do what we can and work together to prevent a genocide. I want to end with this final thought. I belong to a community who have been vilified over 20 years for a crime done by a handful of deviants. I have lived through FBI visits, regular random secondary and tertiary searches at the airports, detentions for hours upon coming back to my own country from an overseas trip, and many other inconveniences because I call myself a Muslim. This Islamophobia that was unleashed globally after 9/11 is what is at work in places like Myanmar, China, and India. Yet I love this country. I love this country because for every one bigoted person that I run into, I find hundreds who are fair, loving, and welcoming, like you all are. Because we know that most of our forefathers also migrated here and faced similar difficulties. Just as I do not blame all Americans for everything bad that happened, I hope and pray that we will also refrain from blaming all for the mistakes of a few, whether those few are oppressive Jews in Israel, genocidal Buddhists in Myanmar, fundamentalist Muslims, hateful lynching Hindu mobs in India, or the MAGA Republicans in our own country. Only then can we make America truly greater than it has ever been in its history. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
Thank you. UUCF's mission is to care for one another and the larger world. This mission is sustained by the financial support of our friends and members. You can see payment options on the screen. and also our address if you prefer to send a check. For those of you in the sanctuary, a basket is being brought around. Whatever you are able to give is received with gratitude. We thank you for your generosity.
And I invite you to stand in body and or spirit, and let's sing hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. From the light of days, remember, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion lead to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living gleams a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness in the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
I'll start with a few prayers directly from Quran and end with a small prayer of my own. Our Lord, do not let our hearts deviate after you've guided us. Grant us your mercy. You are indeed the giver of all bounties without measure. Our Lord, grant us mercy that comes from you and facilitate for us rectitude in our affairs. O Lord, burden us not with which we have no ability to bear, and pardon us and forgive us and have mercy upon us. Now, those were the verses from Quran. This is just my little supplication. Dear beloved God, we as humanity are in dire need of your guidance. So please guide us so we can deal with the problems we face on many fronts. Allow us the ability to overcome these problems in a way that is best for us and others, and make us learn our lessons so we do not repeat the behavior that got us into these situations. O merciful Lord, please make this a world a better place for us and our children. Give us the wisdom to realize that war and fighting does not solve problems in the long run, and to know that we as humanity will swing or swim together. Dear God, please make us understand that we cannot turn a blind eye to injustice anywhere against anyone in the world, because the only sustainable peace comes from justice for everyone, whether they are majority or minority, men or women, humans, animals, or even plants. Give us the courage to speak out against injustice, whether those injustices are in Yemen, India, Ukraine, or our own homeland against minorities or women. Dear God, distribute from your immeasurable love so we may love our family, friends, neighbors, close and across the globe. Above all, give us, O loving God, the ability to love ourselves first, and let that love overflow from within. so we can all live in abundance of love. Amen.
As we now extinguish the chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts wherever we may go. Until we meet again, amen, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. Go now in peace.
Very much. I'd love to know more about your,